Hello, everyone, and a very good day, good afternoon, good evening, based on wherever you're tuning in from. I am Divya Mohan, and this is yet another episode of Rancho Life. So, for those of you who are tuning in and are new subscribers or new viewers of Rancho Life, I work as a principal technology advocate at SUSE, and one of the things we do as part of that job, rather I do as part of that job, is talk about and bring people who can talk about all the cool stuff that they're doing in the open source ecosystem, and that's how this episode came to be. Now, before we go ahead, as with every episode, I'm gonna set some ground rules here, because this is supposed to be a session where we are sharing knowledge, and we're learning from each other. So I know that we all are going to have questions, and we probably want to ask them. So if um, you have questions during our discussion, please feel free to enter them on the chat box. And I will relay them to our presenter at the um, not presenter, but our special guest for today at the end of the session. Um, and while we do so, I'd also request for all of us to be courteous and nice to one another, um, while asking said questions or making suggestions. So, a little bit context about today's show. It's a special one because um, I've never dived deep into my system administration past after having started learning, after starting to learn Kubernetes and stuff like that. A lot of my previous experience was focused on administration of middleware and a bunch of Unix systems, stuff like that. And today's episode is focused on the collaboration between two open source communities that are working in this space. One is the openEuler community, and the other is the Uyuni community. Now, as you can probably guess, it's just me from the Uyuni side of things, because I work with SUSE, and SUSE is sort of the steering. I wouldn't want to say steering representative, but it's also like it's SUSE's project. So one of the things that we work on in the open source space is obviously Linux. The other side being Edge and cloud native stuff. And to accompany me today, I have a very special guest who has kindly agreed to come on the show, even though it's extremely late for him. To introduce him, I think he will give further context, but he has over 10 years of open source experience, so clearly a veteran. And he's worked on multiple open source projects like OpenStack and Kubernetes. Has especially focused on the openEuler project since 2020, currently serving as maintainer for several special interest groups within the project, and he's also the community operations manager. So, please join me in welcoming Zhenyu. And I know I got the pronunciation right, but I promise I will work on it. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for agreeing to come today, because it's absolutely a pleasure. Do you want to give some further context on the work that you've been doing with the Open Ola project?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for having me here, and it's really honored to be able to join this program and give an introduction about uh, openEuler and the cooperations between openEuler and other very good open source projects. And also, I can have a little bit of introduction of myself. Uh, as Divya just mentioned, I have been working on open source, several open source projects for about a decade, and previously I work on like a software engineer, and have been contributed to several open source projects. And about 4 years ago, we started our own community called openEuler, and so we started to learn how to and try how to run our own open source projects. And actually, my previous experience gave me a very good experience and learn how to run an open source project and involve more developers and good very good other open source projects, like we need to cooperate with our own open source projects and to make a better ecosystem. Yeah, that's all on my introduction.
And that's a very I think extensive experience that you have there in terms of not only just in terms of community management and operations, but also outside of it in terms of development and other areas of the project. So so very glad to have you here and to learn from your experience. But getting to the topic of today, Uyuni is both Uyuni and openEuler are basically projects that aren't typically heard of in the cloud native ecosystem. And honestly speaking, Rancher Live is to know more about projects not just in the cloud native ecosystem but beyond as well. So um, I'm gonna start off with a very quick presentation. It's not gonna be more than like 5-10 minutes for sure about what Uyuni is, because I feel like that deserves a sort of introduction that I really would not be able to give if I'm just talking about it, since I tend to ramble a lot. So I'm just going to throw up slides here and sort of walk you through what the project is and what we're doing currently. Hopefully, the slides are visible right now. And the Uyuni project essentially is, an open source configuration and infrastructure management project for software defined infrastructure. Now, this is very self explanatory because I don't think any of this is technical jargon. So, um, what does Uyuni mean? Because it's quite a you know mm, it's not an English word for sure. So in the Amara language, Uyu means enclosure and ni is a suffix to indicate ownership. A quick Google search will actually confirm that, by the way. So Uyuni means one with an enclosure. And for those of you who are actually very interested in Googling on the side, like I am when watching a live, when you Googled Uyuni, you probably would have come up. This would probably be the first thing that came up on your Google search, that it's a salt flat in Bolivia. And it's very I want to say that it's a very good take on what the project leverages, which is the salt project. And essentially, going further down the annals of history, Uyuni is a fork of the Spacewalk project, or Spal Spacewalk project, which is now discontinued. But it was discontinued in 2020. So like Uyuni, Spacewalk was also an open source systems management tool for provisioning and patching of systems. And the capabilities were what you'd expect. You could provision systems, you could manage and deploy config files, you could get an inventory of your systems, you could install and update patches, blah blah blah. I mean, you can go to the website to learn more. Although it also does show that the project is continued. But in 2018, SUSE, which is my employer, it forked the Spacewalk code base with the Uyuni project. And There was a reason to do so, because eventually, the project was discontinued. So with the fork, and with the way the current roadmap is, there is support for two stacks. One is the traditional spacewalk stack, and the new development actually goes into the salt clients. It has modern config management capabilities that the original spacewalk project did not have. And it comes replete with a web UI, and adheres to the latest Python 3 code base, etc. So this is a brief overview of how Uyuni works. Like, if it basically has a client server model, and and if you are managing a very large Linux estate, you can use a proxy server. And from what I've heard, from talking to other engineers and the wider community, we the largest one that I know of is around 17,000 servers in Europe, that's managed. But essentially, the Uyuni server can source the content from any repository that you want, whether it's the SUSE content delivery network, the Alma Linux repo, the Ubuntu repo, and provision your VM, uh, deploy patches, etc., um, on your clients. So that is basically the model, as to how Uyuni works. But zooming in further there, this is basically the salt perspective, and I know this is not very clear when I'm displaying it on the screen this way, but I promise the slides will be available for download and for later viewing, linked in the description section below. So essentially, this is the salt stack that I talked about earlier, and this is how it functions. Uyuni, from the server side as well as the proxy and the client side. And when it comes to the traditional perspective, basically, there is a change in the server side. If you notice the previous slide, which is not very clear, in the salt side, you use the salt API and the entire salt stack to communicate with the proxy and the client side of things. But when you talk about the traditional stack, which leverages the spacewalk code base, it uses the OSA dispatcher and the Jabberly component. But and there is another way that the in the traditional stack, this communication can be leveraged. But as we all know, when it comes to the collaboration between our two communities, it's essentially about enabling you as a community member or as a customer to manage the Linux that you need. Whether it's openEuler, whether it's SUSE's Linux, whether it's Alma Linux, whether it's CentOS, it doesn't really matter. You have support for some of these distributions, and the entire support list can be viewed on the screen right now, but also in the source link that's given here. uh, but getting started is very simple. Now, I have actually gone the I've not actually gone the containerized way, but there is a way for you to actually install it as a container image, and I actually did it this way for some reason, because I had an OpenSUSE Leap machine and I prefer doing it this way. So I managed to install it this way, and if you're more familiar or comfortable with the containerized way, that's the way we normally um, actually would prefer and encourage our community to go forward with installation, because it's easier and is also more convenient in terms of user accessibility. So that's pretty much it with respect to Uyuni. And honestly speaking, the whole point of this was to sort of demonstrate that Uyuni actually is able to manage any Linux that was listed on that list, and manage estates of it if necessary. And that's where the collaboration with openEuler came in the very first place. So I think I'll hand it over to my co-panelist to talk about openEuler, after which we will delve into the specifics of the integration, because I think that's also a very important topic to cover. So over to you, Zinyu. um,
Okay, thank you. And as we can see from the Uyuni project, it's actually very useful, actually, especially for projects like openEuler, because uh, openEuler is actually, I will talk about later, openEuler is actually a very stable and commercial ready operating system. So if you are like, most of our users are using in very large clusters. So the Uyuni project, the feature of Uyuni project is actually very useful for our users, and that's why we think the cooperation between openEuler and Uyuni is very important and promising. And for those audience that's not very familiar with openEuler, and I will give some brief introduction about openEuler. Uh, as we can see from these slides, and I have some informations beyond these slides. I will talk about is that the openEuler is actually an operating system. Is currently incubated and uh, innovated by the Open Atom Foundation. Open Atom Foundation is actually a very big open source foundation in China, and one of the famous projects for this foundation is openEuler. So openEuler is currently now under the Open Atom Foundation, and it is developed by many tech giants in China. Like Huawei, and like not only in China, we also have members and developers like Intel and ARM and things like that. So also SUSE and Rancher has also developed has also contributed to openEuler project. So it's currently we can say that it's an international project. And actually, you can see from the name that openEuler is named after the very famous mathematician Euler. And it is actually because we don't have a very special reason for that, and it is because that it was first developed by Huawei's. We have a lab called the Euler Lab, and they have a lot of labs, innovation labs named after famous scientists in the fundamental science. Like we also have Gauss lab and other labs. So this is developed by the Euler lab. So it was firstly named as Euler OS, and actually it has been developed over a decade before it open sourced. And after it's open source and donated to the Open Atom Foundation, they added open in front of the original name, so it's called openEuler now. So enough for the names, and as we can see from these slides, the goal of the openEuler OS and the community is to build an OS for diversified resources and for the intelligent computing era. This might be new to some of the audience because maybe our audience is only focused on on one of the areas. For example, maybe our audience from the IT industry, they will only use Linux operating systems or Mac or Windows. But we because we have a lot of big companies or users in this community, so uh, we also have users in the communication technology area. It's like the uh, BSS and OSS and AFV areas, and we actually also have uh, users in the operational technologies, like IoT stuff. And those operating system maybe in the previously they use Wind River or something like that. So each of the different scenarios will have different operating systems and also different stack of software. Even though some of the software may connect one or two area, but it's actually still some chimney. We call it the soft chimney for different area of users. So our goal is to have one operating system that can suitable for different different areas and use cases. And that's actually we have already managed to do that. We will have some information later. And we also have a lot of uh, support for mainstream architectures, including CPU, GPU, and NPU, so neural network processors. So that's why, because we are now enter the intelligent computing era, so we as the operating system is the closest to the hardware. So if you want to unleash the computing power of different kind of hardwares, the operating system level is actually one of the key points. So we have supported ARM CPUs, x86 CPUs, and a lot of GPUs and NPUs, and also DPUs. And after that, in recent like 2 years, we also have a very good support for RISC-V and long arc and power. Those some of those are from China, but some of those are very famous architectures worldwide, like RISC-V. OpenEuler actually has, I think, it's the best support for RISC-V. Why can I say that? It's because one of our major contributors from the openEuler community actually produces not only the openEuler RISC-V version of openEuler release, they also support. They also build up an commercially usable RISC-V PC laptop with openEuler and some of their own RISC-V commercial ready chips. So that proves that openEuler supports RISC-V very good, right? That's for the main part. And actually, there we have some digits that shows that openEuler is actually one of the biggest and most fast growing operating system or open source communities in China. You can see we supported a lot of software packages. We have a lot of contributors, and we all have a lot of members. But most importantly, we have already reached top one market share in China last year, and it's 36.8. It's already over third part of the market share. So that proves that openEuler is commercial ready operating systems, at least in the China area. And in this year, we are looking forward to get to the global market. And that's why we have a lot of communications and cooperations with other communities. And actually, this is what I meant. openEuler not only innovated with itself, it also have a very good bond with famous open source projects, communities, and foundations. We can see that we have very good support with collaborations with Open Infra Foundation, with Linux Foundation, and a lot of their sub foundations like Cloud Native, OpenHPC, and just mentioned RISC-V and Zephyr. Those are Zephyr is very famous in IoT an embedded world. So openEuler is doing very good with all those communities. And for the application level, openEuler also did very good with the Apache Foundation. We have a lot of cooperations on famous projects. And also, openEuler has a in-house built JDK, Java develop kit, which is also have a very good connection with the Eclipse Foundation. They have those JDK verification projects, and openEuler's Bisheng JDK is one of them. I can mention a lot. One more thing, that Bisheng is also a an Asian scientist in China. So we our project is some of our projects is named after famous scientists. And openEuler just released its latest long-term support LTS version in June this year. So we have a lot of innovations and interesting features. As you can see from, I will not go very deep with this one, but you can see that we are doing a lot of different areas. Not openEuler is actually not only an operating system. It is an innovation platform, because the idea is that we are not only provide you the operating system, we actually provide you the way to build your own operating system. And that's why a lot of commercial operating system vendors joins openEuler to build their own commercial releases. Is because firstly, openEuler is very strong, and openEuler, second is openEuler also provides a system and a tool for you to make your own commercial release. You can see we have a very good infrastructure for developers to contribute, and for the vendors to generate their own stuff. And as you can see, we have a lot of innovation projects. That's why we have a lot of innovation projects inside the openEuler community. So we are not only an operating system, we are also an innovation platform for people to innovate. So that's why we gathered so much companies and developers around the world. Actually, I did not provide a demo, but it is because it's an ordinary operating systems, and it's even it supports desktop version, and it has a basic UI with this open source version. Actually, the commercial version has a very good different vendors provide different very good looking UIs, but the community version only provides basic UIs, because the goal is for the server and IoT stuff. So actually, there's no unique stuff to show as a demo, but we currently support different ways to get openEuler. For instance, you can download the ISO image, and we have supported, especially for people or users not in China, we have now added support for AWS and Azure public cloud images. You can try it out. And we also have a very good support for container images in Docker Hub and Query, right? And we also support Windows WSL. You can download, you can use it directly from the Windows application store. That's very convenient. And we also have a very good support for Raspberry Pi. So if you have any of those devices, you can test it out very easily. And you can get it from the link above. I think that's very convenient for people to try out. And I have prepared a lot of technical details slides. I think we don't have to go through them one by one now, but you can, I think we can share it afterwards, so people can have a more deeper understanding on the technical part. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think they'd be very interested. So, if you could give me the link to your slides so that I can post them in the description later on, that would be very helpful, for people to consume after the, live episode gets done. But um, this is basically, the amalgamation of two communities. The whole collaboration actually between open Euler and the Uyuni communities was basically during the integration process. And even though, um, this seemed like a match made in heaven, to be really honest, there were a couple of glitches along the way. Again, I'll, not dive too deep into the technical details, but essentially, when integrating open Euler into the Uyuni project, we ran into a couple of glitches um, in the name of, lack of module support and unavailability of, certain repositories. And there were also some formula issues, but the standout feature was the fact that we managed to actually collaborate with the community of OpenEuler, and we got those fixed. And the actual support for OpenEuler as an OS actually began earlier in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. But again, this is not like the whole and soul of what either of the projects can do, because these are 30-minute episodes where we cannot dive extremely deep. So essentially, both of us are not both of us both of our projects are open source, and they thrive on voluntary contributions. And as my co-panelist here has clearly, been saying, a lot of the work that we do is out for pretty much everyone to see. So we will be linking the respective repositories, the documentation pages, the links to all the communication channels in the description section. But I think we have one question here which I'll address before we leave, because we're almost up for time. Actually, we're quite ahead, and I should probably address this before we wrap up for the day. So, Lua here, if I'm getting your name right, actually has asked whether it makes sense to use Uyuni when managing hybrid infrastructure at the scale of K3s clusters that are typically one or three nodes each. Um, Honestly speaking, why not? Unless there are constraints that prevent you from using it, because um, basically we leverage the salt configuration management system to manage clients. And it is a simplified management process which gives you a graphical visualization of your Linux systems, irrespective of wherever they are, whether it's on an IoT device, whether it's in a it's on a data center, whatever. You get that simplified single pane of glass view wherever you are. So why not? And if you would like to learn more about the product that SUSE has built from the open source project Uyuni, we have a webinar that's coming up um, on August 21st, that delves into SUSE Manager. So there will be a demo for sure, I am assured there. And if y'all are interested, again, going to leave the links down below. But I think we're up for time, and I know that it's very late for you, for my co-panelist here. So I don't want to keep you, Zhenyu, and thank you so much. There are no other questions, so I think we can wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on and for chatting with us about openEuler and for showing us a little more of the work that you've been doing on the project. We look forward to hosting you on another Rancher Live or some other member of the community as well. But for the rest of the audience that's tuned in, we will make sure to update the YouTube description and the LinkedIn comment with the relevant links, as and when Zenyu provides it to me. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Yes, thank you. Very honored.
Thank you, and have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.